It started on a cold November night in 1966, just outside the small town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia. The kind of town where people left their doors unlocked and everyone knew your name. A quiet corner of Appalachia, nestled between the hills and the Ohio River. But something changed that night. Something no one could explain. And for many who lived through it, life would never return to normal. Roger and Linda Scarberry, along with Steve and Mary Mallett, were just 4 young adults out for a drive. It was late, too late really, but they were used to cruising those back roads when the town was asleep. They ended up near the abandoned TNT area, an old World War II munitions site, dotted with rusting concrete igloos and overgrown paths. It was quiet out there, unnaturally so, until they saw it. In their own words, it stood nearly 7 feet tall, with massive wings folded against its back and 2 glowing red eyes that didn't reflect the headlights, but seemed to burn with their own light. It watched them. It moved like no man could move. And when it took off into the sky, it didn't flap. It glided effortlessly, faster than any bird, following their car for miles as they sped back into town. They reported what they saw to the police that night, terrified and shaken. And they weren't the only ones. Over the next few days, the sightings increased. People from all walks of life, farmers, teenagers, businessmen, all claimed to see the same thing. A large humanoid figure with wings, often near the TNT area, always with those same glowing red eyes. Some said it flew overhead silently. Others said it stood outside their windows at night. But one thing was clear. Something was haunting Point Pleasant. At first, the local press called it a joke. Couples see man-sized bird, creature, something, read the headline in the Point Pleasant Register. But behind the headline, something real was taking root. Panic. Rumors spread like wildfire. Dogs were going missing. People reported strange lights in the sky, static interference on radios, televisions cutting out with no warning, and always, that feeling of being watched. The town was on edge, and no one knew why. Mary Heyer, a local reporter for the Athens Messenger, took a particular interest in the sightings. Her office near the courthouse became a kind of ground zero. Locals came to her not just with tales of the winged creature, but with stories of strange men in black suits knocking on doors, asking odd questions, warning people not to talk. Mary, a no-nonsense woman, tried to document everything. She filled notebooks with witness accounts and oddities. But even she couldn't explain what began happening to her. Vivid dreams of people drowning, visions of tragedy, and a sense of something looming, something catastrophic. And then came Indrid Cold. Woodrow Derenberger, a traveling salesman from nearby Mineral Wells, was driving home on the evening of November 2nd, 1966, when he encountered something he couldn't explain. On Route 77, a strange vehicle, shaped like a kerosene lamp, blocked his path. A man stepped out, tall, smiling unnaturally wide, with slick black hair and a calm, almost mechanical voice. He called himself Indrid Cold and told Woodrow not to be afraid. Their conversation was short, but it stuck with Woodrow for the rest of his life. Cold told him they'd meet again, then got back into his craft and disappeared. What made the encounter more chilling was that Cold, or someone by that name, kept showing up in the months that followed. Woodrow claimed to have repeated visits, often telepathic, always accompanied by that eerie grin. He wasn't alone, either. Other residents claimed to see similarly dressed strangers, always smiling, always watching. As the winter of 1966 deepened, Point Pleasant found itself in the grip of something it couldn't name. More sightings of the Mothman, more unexplained phenomena. Witnesses described an oppressive fear, not just of what they saw, but of what they felt. Something was coming, they said. And whatever it was big. Some people claimed a creature tried to communicate, not in words, but in dreams, visions of disaster, water, metal twisting, people screaming. And then, almost a year after the first sighting, it happened. On December 15th, 1967, at the peak of the Christmas shopping season, the Silver Bridge, a suspension bridge that connected Point Pleasant with Gallipolis, Ohio, collapsed into the icy Ohio River during rush hour. Cars plummeted into the water, 31 vehicles in all. 46 people died. It was the deadliest bridge disaster in American history at the time. Rescue workers struggled with freezing water, fighting strong currents and darkness, pulling out twisted wreckage and lifeless bodies. The town was shattered. For many, the horror of the collapse was compounded by a realization. The Mothman sightings had stopped. Completely. As if the creature, whatever it was, had served its purpose. It had come as a warning. And then it had vanished. The government cited a failed eye-bar in the bridge's suspension system as the cause of the disaster. A tragic but mechanical failure. But for the people of Point Pleasant, it wasn't so simple. They couldn't forget the months of eerie sightings, the visits from strange men, the warnings in dreams. Some even believed the Mothman wasn't a monster at all, but a harbinger, an omen sent not to harm, but to alert. But if that was true, then the message had come too late. In the years that followed, Point Pleasant tried to heal. The wreckage of the Silver Bridge was cleared. A new bridge was built, but the stories didn't fade. Tourists began to trickle in, curious about the legend. Books were written. A statue of the Mothman was erected in town, and an annual festival began to commemorate the event, a mix of remembrance and myth-making. Some embraced it. Others refused to speak of it at all. For those who lived through that year, it wasn't just a ghost story. It was a wound. Even decades later, the questions remain. What did the people of Point Pleasant really see? Was the Mothman a cryptid, a spirit, an alien presence? Was it connected to the bridge collapse? Or merely a coincidence? The truth lies somewhere in the fog between belief and reality. Eyewitnesses, many of whom are now elderly or passed on, held firm to their stories. They weren't looking for fame. They were scared. Some of them still are. And every once in a while, someone claims to see it again. A tall figure with wings and burning red eyes, standing in the shadows near bridges, near disasters yet to happen. Just watching, waiting.